Adrenal cortex. It is the part of the adrenal glands. Already we learned about the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland is an essential gland or life-saving gland. Why it is called as an essential gland or why it is called as a life-saving gland? Because these glands which secrete hormones like aldosterone, there is a life-saving hormone. Why means it maintains the osmolarity and the volume of ECF, that is blood volume. That's why it is called as a life-saving gland. So the hormone is called as a life-saving hormone. Because in the absence of this hormone, the death may occur 10 to 15 days. That's why this type of the hormone is secreted by the adrenal glands. This adrenal gland consists of two important part, that is the outer cortex and inner medulla. The outer cortex, that it is constitute main part of the adrenal glands. It consists of three cellular zones. The first one is the zona of glomerulus. It is a outer zone which is present just below the capsular structure of adrenal gland. It consists of a small polyhedral cells. It secretes the mineralocorticoids. The second cell is the zona fasciculata. Zona fasciculata is the middle zone. It consists of a large polyhedral cells. Then basophilic cytoplasm. Each cell secretes the glucocorticoids. Then the third part is the zona reticularis. It is an inner zone. These cells secrete the sex hormones or the androgens. But these are the three zones present in the adrenal cortex that secrete the different hormones. The first we discuss about the aldosterone, which is secreted from the outer part of the adrenal cortex. The outer part is called as a zona glomerulosa. Here the name implies the mineralocorticoids. Mineralocorticoids means this type of the hormone that responsible for the mineral metabolism and water metabolism. Here aldosterone and 11-deoxycorticosterone are the main hormones of the secreted by the zona glomerulosa. Here that is aldosterone is the main hormone, main mineralocorticoids hormones. Its half-life is 20 minutes. It is metabolized by liver and kidney and excreted through the urine. Here the aldosterone has three important functions. The first function is the reabsorption of a sodium from the renal tubules, and that is a collecting duct. Second function is the excretion of a potassium through the renal tubules, and third function is secretion of hydrogen into the renal tubules. That means the sodium reabsorption is increased by the aldosterone hormone. Here the increased reabsorption of a sodium from the distal convoluted tubules and the collecting duct. Here the hypersecretion cause the decrease the sodium loss, but the hyposecretion the aldosterone that lead to the increase the concentration of the sodium. That means increase the hypersecretion cause the increase the hyposecretion cause the increase the loss of a sodium through the urine, that is reabsorption is decreased. This condition is called as a hypernatremia. Hypernatremia is nothing but it is the increased excretion of a sodium. So that is here two thing is there to remember. First thing is means during the hyper secretion of aldosterone the sodium concentration is more, but in the hyposecretion sodium loss is more, so that is decrease the concentration of sodium in the blood and extracellular fluids ECF. So here the sodium reabsorption in this way aldosterone maintain the osmolarity of the osmolarity of the body. What is the osmolarity means? It is the expression of the concentration in terms there is the number of or amount of solute present in a 1 liter of that is a solution. So that is electrolytes, sodium, potassium, that concentration is regulated by this aldosterone hormone. Here one thing is important, while there is the reabsorption of a sodium that is occurs in the distal converted tubules, what happen means the equal quantity of a water is also reabsorbed, thereby it maintain the that is extracellular fluid volume that lead to the increase the blood volume. That result the once the volume of blood is increased means the blood pressure is also increased. So this is a important action, that is when the sodium reabsorption is increased by the in the presence of aldosterone hormone. Here the aldose already we learned how the blood pressure is increased. That means here angiotensin, there is a renin angiotensin system has an important role, that is a regulation of that is a blood pressure through the aldosterone mechanism. Here whenever there is increase the concentration of the potassium in the ECF or decrease the concentration of sodium, that definitely then decrease the volume of blood, that cause the stimulation of a juxtaglomerular apparatus that release the renin hormone. This renin hormone that convert the angiotensinogen to the angiotensin, then angiotensin is converted as a angiotensin 2 by the angiotensin converting enzyme. The angiotensin 2 is also responsible for the stimulation of that is adrenal cortex, thereby secretion of that is aldosterone. This aldosterone that retain the sodium concentration by the increase the reabsorption of a sodium. In this way sodium along with the sodium water is also reabsorbed, thereby increase the volume of ECF or blood. So once the volume is increased means blood pressure is also increased. This is a way how the aldosterone involved in the renin angiotensin system for maintaining the blood pressure in the body. Okay, now we move to the next portion, that is the next function, excretion of the that is hydrogen, that is potassium excretion is occurs in the presence of the aldosterone. Here the deficiency of the aldosterone that cause the increase the concentration of potassium in ECF, that is extracellular fluid, this condition is called as an hyperkalemia. Okay, that means which lead to that is a cardiac toxicity. That is one of the reason. That is the importance of aldosterone. It's a life-saving drug. It's a life-saving hormone. That means here whenever there is a deficiency of the aldosterone, the concentration of the potassium ion is more in ECF. That is called as a hyperkalemia. That means aldosterone function is increase the excretion of the potassium. But here there is a deficiency means decrease the aldosterone secretion. That leads to the hyperkalemia. Okay, that means once the potassium ion concentration in the body, that is blood means increase means what happens? That lead to the cardiac toxicity. There is a arrhythmia, there is a abnormal rhythmic contraction of the heart, thereby death may occur. Okay. So here there is a decrease in the sodium concentration, sodium and chloride concentration in the ECF. Then there is decrease the ECF volume. Then decrease the ECF volume means decrease the blood pressure, and decrease that lead to the there is shock, that is a circulatory shock may occur. That is a circulatory collapse that leads to circulatory collapse. Then finally death may occur. That means the deficiency of the aldosterone that cause the death, or that cause some serious effects in the body because of these two things. That is increase the sodium potassium concentration in the ECF that lead to the cardiac toxicity. Then that is decrease the concentration of the sodium, that is also lead to the hypovolemic, there is a shock, there is circulatory collapse that lead to the death. So that is the function of the aldosterone. Now the next function is next function of the aldosterone means maintain the acid-base balance. How it maintain the acid-base balance? Here the first we they learned there is three functions of the aldosterone. There is a secretion of the hydrogen ions from the renal tubules. Here there is the aldosterone that promote the excretion of a hydrogen ions in the urine, which can help the preventing the acidosis. As we know, what is acidosis? Acidosis means increase the concentration of H plus ion. So in this way, H plus ion is removed from the renal tubules. Hypersecretion causes the alkalosis. That means that secrete more hypersecretion in the sense there is increased secretion of aldosterone that cause the alkalosis. Then the hyposecretion that cause the acidosis, hyposecretion of the aldosterone. That is in this way it is maintain the acid-base balance by the aldosterone hormone. It's hypersecretion, the aldosterone cause the alkalosis. There is hyposecretion of aldosterone that cause the acidosis. In this way there is it maintain there is acid-base balance by the aldosterone. Here the aldosterone is also increases the absorption of a sodium from the intestines. It is absorption. It is also reabsorption of the sodium from the salivary glands, and there is a sweat gland, etc. Then how the mineralocorticoid secretion is regulated? The regulation is through the renin-angiotensin system control. Here whenever the potassium secretion, there is a concentration is more and the ECF volume is decreased, then the sodium concentration is decreased in the ECF. So definitely that stimulate the ECF in the sense plasma. So definitely that stimulate the renin-angiotensin system. This renin-angiotensin system which further stimulate the aldosterone hormone from that means secretion of aldosterone from the adrenal cortex. Okay, So this is a way of the control of the release of aldosterone. Whenever decrease the ECF, the volume, and when the sodium level is low, potassium level is more, so definitely the renin angiotensin system is activated through this there is a different with the help of the enzyme, and finally that stimulate the angiotensin to stimulate the adrenal cortex that secrete the aldosterone. Another important hormone is secreted by the adrenocorticotropic hormone that is secreted by the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland that also forms a minimal stimulating action on the adrenal cortex and produce the aldosterones. Here whenever already we learned potassium level is increased means there is hyperkalemia that stimulate the aldosterone secretion. This is the way to control the secretion of mineralocorticoids from the adrenal cortex, especially zona glomerulosa. Okay, thank you for watching this video.